All right, I believe this means we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sorts and sizes and persuasions, welcome to another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell, aka Some Gadget Guy, the SGG of this terribly named podcast. It's kind of the worst name. It's like real bad for a podcast, but the QA, that's the good part. That's the exciting part. We're into the question and answer. We like to make our Monday morning show kick off our week with an interactive conversation. Already seeing some great names, some great faces here in the chat, and more so than in other weeks, because this is the last Monday of June. We are halfway point in the year 2025, and everything is crazy, and the world is melting down around us, but we're halfway through this year. Man, the first 6 months of 2025, there's my stutter. The first 6 months of 2025 have been the longest decade of my life. I couldn't stick the landing on that joke because my brain locked up and I just started repeat looping a word because talking is hard. So, hope everybody out there is doing well. Oh, sorry, yeah, the main thing. Last Monday of the month, we like to do, I like to do kind of a let my hair down pajama podcast, keep it a little bit lighter. We let the chat kind of dictate more where we want to go. I've got a couple things here on my desk that we can talk about, check in on some gadgets, talk about some of the reviews that I have still yet to finish, trying to get videos out there. But if we veer off in another direction, then that's totally okay too. I already have a request that we want to spend some time chatting about Nothing Phone 3. And we've got a bunch of renders and leaks on Nothing Phone 3. I've got some headphones and some earbuds that I'd like to talk about. And then also just, I mean, as much as I am an advocate for people treating their smartphone cameras like proper cameras, I'm playing with a couple lens add-ons that are kind of ridiculous. So we've got a lot happening in tech right now, even though usually we're supposed to be taking our summers off, right? Used to be kind of like a summer doldrum, and then we'd come back in for like, fall and for, getting back to school and for stuff like that. But there's just a lot happening. And I've cut all the news block, all of the news stories, but like talking about regulations, talking about countries in the EU dumping, operating systems and office applications and open source this and right to repair that. So we've got a lot of, tech topics juggling up in the air right now. So, already seeing a good crew here. I'm seeing JGJ. I brought up Nothing Phone. He was like, meh, CMF phone, thanks. Like, okay. So Nothing Phone isn't doing it for JGJ. We got JMan150. I think I remember seeing Phone Arena did an article saying that OnePlus might be added to the sanctions list as well. Again, another political topic that I just feel like, man, if I were any other company on the planet, like an Oppo or a Xiaomi, there are reasons why I am really side-eye looking at the United States right now, and it's real sad. Yeah, I'm a big fan of OnePlus products. My SIM card is still in the OnePlus 13. It just like, Huawei, how that played out kind of broke my heart. It would be nice to have more competition in this space, but then we'd have to care about things like, what do our silly politicians do when they have power over commerce and tariffs and things like that? But again, we don't want to talk about politics. Oh, politics. But then terrible things happen, and you're like, oh no, what do we do? I'm not saying you, J-Man150. You're bringing it up, so I appreciate you. Sorry, let me get through the roll call here. We got Vazikos, we got Swiper1911. Swiper no swiping. Simon says Hypno. John Gao. 91 Venom. Glad to make it live again. Glad you could make it too. We got Anders Dahlberg saying hi. Paul the T Guy. Ron Guido. I'm missing someone in here. I'm said Jimmy Fire Dragon. We got Jimmy always trying to help keep us hydrated, keep us looking out for us. Oh, and Tangential Tesseract. Man, I love my OnePlus Open. I would hate to see their stuff become unavailable. And we can all just have those feelings. Man, sure would suck. I guess there's nothing we can do except maybe look at the track records of who we're voting for. Or whether for some people, not anyone I'm sure in this chat here, but also just like whether or not you're voting. And we have such low voter turnout. The suppression is real. Hold on one second, let me take a drink of coffee here. Oh, we've got Blue Militia saying howdy tech pals, and what is that? Is that I can't see what kind of flower that is in your profile pic, but that looks delightful. And we got Nick Gay saying, "Sup people?" So, pajama podcast. We're gonna keep this light. We're gonna keep this breezy. I'm gonna try and shut up and stop soapboxing about all of those other really concerning topics that we should all be very anxious about. First of all, I hope everybody out there had a lovely weekend. We had kind of one of those heavy but fun, emotional weekends, and it kind of took me out of commission. So I've been talking a lot. Like Lexi's been playing softball. We realized we have been full speed on softball since last fall, with no break. From fall ball to select to spring and rec league to private coaches for catching and for hitting to finishing rec league and then getting into all stars and tournaments and travel. And this last week we had another tournament, but the tournament started because they sort of assume, hey, most kids are out of school by now. The tournament, we had to be there on Thursday, so my normal workflow for like even just getting videos out got totally interrupted as I was trying to put together a couple production packages and still talk about tech. And I've got a sponsored video that's going to be coming out soon. So everything just got crazy squished and abbreviated, and I think I pulled a muscle lugging batteries around, and I went from a medical procedure where it was hard to sit to pulling a muscle, and then like now it's like hard to stand. It's like at some point I will be a fully realized grown-up boy. Like I'll have maybe all of my parts working again for once. It would be nice. But we had our last tournament, and then we also realized like, hey, this is like the completion of an entire almost year-long journey. This is her last set of games in this in this age bracket. Like it was a whole series of lasts. Last tournament, last year in 8U, last game in 8U, last at bat in 8U. It was pretty heavy. I think Lex is old enough now. She's not yet 10, where she's starting to like kind of clue in. Like she's starting to grok all this stuff. I've been playing with these girls, and we've been going to these tournaments, and I recognize these players, and I know these coaches, and now next year is a whole, not even next year. If we go fall ball again, she's got about 2 months off, and then we start up all over again. But it's like from here on, it's going to be a whole bunch of unknowns. It's a whole bunch of firsts. She's moving up an age bracket, different rules for play. She might be in different positions on the field. Like everything is uncertain. And we have a kid who's pretty clever. She's a clever kid, but I don't know, a lot of kids deal with uncertainty very well. So we were definitely feeling it. We got a misty-eyed a couple of times, like working with her coaches and then seeing the girls out there play. And then like this is like the best tournament that they've ever performed in. We had like a 3-game winning streak into an elimination bracket. It was pretty crazy. So, Delambit, will she continue with the same teammates? So our league is pretty big. Our spring ball, our rec is, we can usually field a bunch of teams. So this is only her first full calendar year playing softball. She started in rec league literally a year ago, finished rec and went to tournaments. So she's just like, she's only been swinging a bat for a little bit more than a year, like 14 months. So this has been a crash course in meeting up with these girls and learning how to play and getting put on different teams. And so she's now starting to get to that point where she recognizes other players that she's played against. And then she's been on competition teams with them. And then most of them are going to be moving up the age bracket with her. So it's not going to be a complete unknown. She's going to know a lot of the girls moving up to 10U. But it's still like, I think this is the first time where it's been her thing. And she's had to experience the endings of things. And it's just such a heady concept to feed a 9-year-old. Like, so yeah, you're having a great time right now. And then it's over. And then what do you do? And that sometimes stings a bit. Oh, we've got Box Fabio. Hey, from Portugal, following for a long time. The only channel that really keeps some tests that really show how mobile CPUs get to work besides benchmarks. Thank you for being here. Well, Box Fabio, I'm glad you've enjoyed those tests. I will have some more coming out soon. I'm so sorry, everybody. Like, I keep jumping into new projects, and then things get kind of compressed, and then I've got to finish a few of these projects. Like, for example, apologies to folks on the Patreon, but I still haven't even finished my by the benchmarks for the OnePlus Pad 3. I've been waiting on an update because I really feel like the tablet needs an update, but it's still like, man, this stuff is taking so long. So I'm glad you've been enjoying the content. I really do appreciate folks chiming in and just saying, hey, this is the kind of stuff I like to talk about too. Oh, that's right. So Simon Says Hypno is saying, how's the heat wave in Portugal? Box Fabio says, I'm okay working on AC and planning to go to the beach after work. It just seems that the South is unbearable. I think a lot of us are going to be facing some tough issues. I'm doing a sponsored video with another company. I don't even know why I'm being cagey about this. I'm not under embargo for anything. So the folks at Jackery reached out, and I'll be doing a sponsored video on some of their little battery backups and some of their solar panels coming soon. This podcast, not sponsored by Jackery, but a video will be showing up soon. And I just realized, like, we had all those crazy wildfires out in January. January is not our fire season. We're going into a really hot summer, and it's probably going to be pretty dry. Marie and I are having those conversations. Like, we've got to start stocking up. We've got to start, building or repairing kind of like our exit strategy. We've got a plan for this stuff now. We can't just like wing it if something bad happens. So I'm feeling for a lot of people out there. Like, a heat wave used to be one of those things that we talked about in these terms like it was kind of unexpected. That's not the gig anymore. We've got to plan on this stuff now. So Box Fabio, I hope you're doing okay. And going to the beach sounds like a great idea. Just take some of the edge off your day and hopefully get to cool off a bit. From Andro Matthew, howdy doody. Excited to hear about your experiences with the phone lenses. I've said this before, so apologies if it feels like spam, but you should really try those lenses with motion camera. I do like motion cam, but I just do not have a need to shoot raw, Andro. The biggie for me is Blackmagic camera. I know that is insufficient. That's not what you're what you're asking about, but it's still like, ooh, that's kind of my gig when it comes to throwing on another camera app. But at some point, I will circle back and I will check out motion. What I need to do is talk about it more, like just properly, like put out a proper video. This is the state of motion cam, and this is what you can do with some other like lenses and add-ons and attachments and stuff. But it's just been so much. And then when it's not a tool I really use, then it feels like I've got to front load even more work to get to a point where I can use it and not sound like a total schmuck. Like I don't know what I'm talking about. So, and JGJ, triple digits in your neck of the woods. That's awful. Oh, Paul the Tigay. Hey Juan, sorry if you've covered this, but I keep missing the streams. Did you see the AI company which Microsoft backed, which turned out to be 700 developers posing as AI bots? There has been so much news. So, for example, like Sam Altman went and just did like an interview, like, yeah, our relationship with Microsoft is great, but it's complicated, but it's awesome, and we want, to make money off of their investment, but not pay them, but they want this, and that's unreasonable. And you're like, I don't get it. I don't get how any of this is being taken seriously. Like the older I get, I keep waiting to see like, well, when do the grown-ups show up? I'm I'm in my 40s and I'm still waiting for the grown-ups to show up. And investors are still like, yes, this sounds like the fundamentals of this company are going to be a return on my money investing and you're like, what are you looking at? They've dumped billions of dollars into this brand. This brand is a valuation of $300 billion with no plans on revenue, let alone profit. And we're still pretending like, yeah, well, gotta, the AI is the investment, and I think that's good money. And I'm just so over it. So that's me getting caught up. I actually would like to just tangent from my like title, phone lenses and headphones and earbuds. Oh my! Let's chat out Nothing Phone 3. I am going to put this up front again. Nothing is not the brand for me. I am not feeling Nothing. I hate the name of the company so much because there's just so many owned goals, right? It's just so many terrible puns. Like, there's nothing here for me. Oh God, I hate it so much. Um, I feel what we're seeing in the Nothing playbook is very similar to the early days of OnePlus, where there is a lot of groundswell. There's a lot of flagship killer. There's a lot of this nerd embrace. And I'm not saying nerds shouldn't have companies targeting them and marketing to them, but I just want us to acknowledge the reason why we care about these phones is because this is a company that is marketing to the nerds. And sometimes we feel left out. Often, if the conversation around iPhones is like status and luxury and fashion, then yeah, a lot of people like me just don't vibe on that. I don't care if there's an indefatigable supply of Louis Vuitton cases for a type of phone. That's not gonna do it for me. But if a company goes out of their way to say, hey, we're making this product with these specifications and you care about this and this kind of performance, then yes, I understand why geeks get lit up about that. We're just as susceptible to marketing as anyone else. We want a good product for a good price, and it's the merit. It's the merit. The product is going to succeed on its own merit, but they also saw me, so I feel seen. But for a phone company like Nothing, so much of this seems to be built on parts of an aesthetic and a marketing towards a tech enthusiast community, and I just don't think that there's a lot else there. I've been playing with just wild phones my entire career. I still, you know what? I really should. I got to play with that Lava phone after doing the MediaTek press trip out to India. And it's like, that's a $200-ish phone that has a pretty good rear camera and a screen on the back to help you better compose your selfies. So you can use the best camera on the phone to compose your selfies. Great performance, nice screen, good battery life, quick charging. You've got Techno, you've got Infinix. There are all these brands that are doing this like sub $300 phenomenal daily driver entry-level phone that competes really well against mid-rangers and has a few features that can even give premium tier phones a run for their money. And then Nothing comes in with glyphs. And if you're into glyphs, I want you to love them. I want you to think that that's the coolest looking phone you can own and that you're real happy and you love the wallpapers and you dig on the launcher having like this dot matrix effect. I want you to love it. But I need to say, that's not what does it for me. I would happily give up on glyphs because I choose to wear things like smartwatches and smart glasses and have any other penny of that construction go towards other parts of the phone. So, I'm sorry. I did not mean to start us off that way. It just kind of came out because I have no script and I have no structure for what's going on right here. So, logical atheist, you're asking me if I'm a Mac or Android or a Windows or an iPhone user. I hold on. We're talking about nothing right now, and sort of in between some others. If we want to chat about the incredible number of operating systems that I have in front of me right now, then we can. But I don't really feel like that's it. And I just also want to say, Scoop, what's up, Bionic Scoop? Glad to see ya. Okay, so. Hey, Glyphiel. I don't know, Michael C., man. I'm just not into glyphs. So let me screen share this here. This is, I caught this from Android Headlines. I feel, and someone please correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like they got the scoop on all of these leaks and all of these renders. So what I see before me is a phone that looks like it's a pretty decent competitor to something like a OnePlus 13R. All right? That looks pretty good. I hate the way tech reviewers write up sort of specs and stuff now. For example, we also know there will be a 50 megapixel periscope telephoto lens. I just need y'all to know that the lens has no megapixels. None. Your lens is a piece of glass or plastic that bends light to focus that light on a photosensitive medium, which could be film, which has no megapixels, or it could be a sensor, a light sensitive sensor that has little dots on it that soak up the light, and then fancy electronics and software process that information from the sensor, and you get a photo. You have megapixels on a sensor. You have a 50 megapixel sensor paired with a periscope lens. I am so tired of these halfway shortcut abbreviations that don't help us really learn what these products are. That is such a casual and lazy misrepresentation of the basics of the fundamentals of photography. Like, go up to a person holding like some really awesome mirrorless camera, say, well, how many megapixels are on that lens? Does that camera have like a 20 megapixel lens? Right? Would you do that? Would we talk about this technology so blitheringly low were we using the example of having another camera? Again, sorry, that's not where I wanted to go with any of this. I want to talk about the phone. Here, let me get back in. Delambit saying, I understand where you're coming from. I do think the phone looks pretty cool, and it seems like the 3 will be decent. I don't remember if the price is already unveiled, though. I have not seen. Someone please tell me if you've seen leaks or any mention on the price, because that is going to be key. That's where we can make a point, right? I feel even though with tariffs and we've seen pricing fluctuate, you always have to go in and do like a phone trade-in or sell off a phone, get that money, put it towards a new phone, maybe shop a sale, something like that. But I've been pointing to phones like the OnePlus 13R as being a great example of just how hard a mid-ranger phone can hit now. And especially when you put it up against something like a Pixel 9, Google loses almost every fight if you go Pixel 9 to OnePlus 13R. So if nothing can come in with a good, solid spec sheet, some good performance, like really go toe-to-toe with the OnePlus, but then undercut $100, that would be enough to say, hey, I don't know that you can get a OnePlus 13R on sale and match this and compare that and fight for this. That's good competition. I want good competition. I'm going to be really anxious to see, because look at how tech nerds viscerally turned on OnePlus when OnePlus just started making good phones and wasn't trying to play this zero margin, no profit, taking losses on every product kind of strategy. Now they're just making regular, really great phones at prices below Samsung and Apple. OnePlus has betrayed me. They used to be flagship killers. Now they're just flagships. So if nothing comes out, and let's say the Nothing Phone 3 is approaching the same price tier as a OnePlus 13R, are we still going to be like, hey, this is such a great phone, such a great deal, but then ignore that Oppo has been crushing in this space? Are we really going to play that game? Because if it's just, I like the aesthetic and I'm willing to pay for that over a OnePlus, then you can see why I get frustrated when we misrepresent what competition really is and we're just moving goalposts because we think we like a company, not because it's really good competition. We should be talking about the phone. Delanbit, I actually have the OnePlus 12R, and I actually don't miss my pixels anymore. So it'll be good to see if nothing can compete with OnePlus. And again, if we can get a North American strategy, a proper, real distribution, support, get all of those pieces in place from nothing so that we get those phones here legit in the United States. Maybe we'll need that if our government decides to put OnePlus on the entities list. So, Android headlines. This is taking me so long. Android headlines is the first place I saw that broke this scoop. What we see here is that same kind of exposed panel. These are not the guts of the phone, but it kind of looks like a fancy new computer motherboard. Like one of those design trends in like a whiteout motherboard for a PC build, where instead of seeing totally exposed circuit board for your motherboard, you're seeing these like panels that cover up the bits, and then you can see it's like partially exposed. I think that looks interesting. I still feel like we're going through so much work to make this look aesthetically pleasing when that's not really what the inside of a phone looks like. So for me, it's pennies of this construction could have been managed in other ways. I would be fine to just see the rear guts of the phone exposed. Like, I just recently did a eulogy for my Note 4, and it's fun peeling the back off that and seeing the parts of the phone that are exposed and the parts that are covered up in panels, and that was all really practical because you could just open the back of your phone. Since we can't just open the back of this phone, it would be fine for me to just see the actual guts of the phone. So the biggie is also, I'm holding on this one photo here. Sorry for folks listening to the audio replay. We see these 3 camera sensors that are in kind of an odd arrangement. One of the camera sensors going right up to the edge of where the frame is. That looks like it almost cuts off the circle. Now this is a render. I don't know that it's really gonna look like this in real life, but it almost looks in the render like this one camera sensor gets kind of a flat tire effect as you go up to the edge of the frame. But I don't like, we've got these circles that are kind of offset against each other, and then one circle doesn't line up with the other two. So we get these really cool squares where 2 camera sensors are, and then one camera sensor that just feels like it's kind of tacked on and shoved to the outer edge of the frame in a way that is, to me, not very aesthetically pleasing. But what we do see is kind of an interesting circle in the top right corner that looks like a full monochrome dot screen. So instead of glyphs, what we might, not just having glyphs, but instead of just glyphs, what we might have is kind of a ticker display or a readout or something here in the top corner. In the example photo for the render, it looks like waveform. It looks like if you were shooting video from the rear camera, you would see audio kind of wiggling around. I imagine that this is probably more for like music playback. So you have a visualizer on the back of the phone so that when you're listening to music, you have something on the back of the phone that you can look at that is going to the beat of the music that you're listening to. Again, there are $200 phones in India that just have a full display that you can use as a way to compose your photos. And what nothing is doing here is black and white, big chunky block pixels for entertainment when you're listening to music. Or maybe it'll draw out your speech if you're using the memo recorder. You know, there are definitely things that we can do with this type of readout. It would be really cool if this were high enough resolution that maybe we could do something like have a little ticker display so that you could like have like a teleprompter. I don't think it's going to do that. Also, like going word by word to try and speak, that probably won't work. That's me, like literally just kind of off the cuff. What could be interesting to do on the back of a phone? I just think stuff like that is interesting. I don't think I'd buy a phone for stuff like that. So, my rant about cameras, what we're assuming, we're going to see 3 50 megapixel sensors. I doubt very much that the Nothing Phone 3 is going to launch at a price dramatically undercutting something like a OnePlus 13R, somewhere in that $500 to $600 territory. The OnePlus 13R is not a cheap phone, but it is a brilliant performer in that kind of middle price segment. I do believe Nothing is going to try and undercut OnePlus. If they do that, I don't believe we're going to see class-leading sensors, and the resolution is literally the least important part of your camera assembly. How many binned pixels or pre-binned pixels are on that sensor matters almost none for your photography. It's the least useful feature on your phone. You can shoot 50 megapixel JPEGs that are heavily processed to get that demosaicing happening and tons of noise reduction because all of those little dots are so teeny. So everything looks like plasticky and hard block outlined and just, it looks pretty gross if you ask me. I almost never use these higher resolution modes because I find they just don't give me any good output. They're often slower. The image capture takes longer. I just don't see much value in going to 50 MP mode. It's not it. They can help us in some situations like where you need to crop zoom, but if we have 3 cameras, your best photo quality is gonna be at the native 12 megapixel focal range of each lens. The second you pinch to zoom, you're immediately degrading the quality of your photo. And 12 MP is kind of that best case, good, practical, very high quality image output. You can use it for a variety of situations. You can blow those images up a little bit more. You can print them. Like 12 MP is our best possible output. These renders don't show a periscope. That's another thing that just annoys me. I'm very confident Nothing will put out a periscope, but when I click in this image that is highlighting the 3 camera sensors here, they're all circles. Circle, circle, circle. A periscope would probably have a rectangle. Especially the bigger the sensor you use on a periscope, the more that rectangle you really notice the rectangular housing. I've got a bunch of, like, here's my Vivo, and that's a huge sensor for a periscope and for a telephoto, and it is very squared off. So I don't know which one of these would likely be. I don't know. It probably can't be the top mounted sensor because you need somewhere for that sensor and periscope to go. So that means the top mounted sensor that's really out to the edge is either going to be the wide or the ultra wide. And neither are really a good placement for wider angle cameras. Because as you're holding a phone, I don't know why I'm doing this like without a prop. As you're holding a phone, you got to be really careful about where you put this hand if that outer sensor is like right up near the edge of the frame of the phone. So that's bad for a wide. It's really bad for an ultra wide. It means you're always having to like keep your hand away from the phone and how you would brace it, and then also do things like tap on the screen to focus or take the photo. I'm assuming that the telephoto is likely going to be the middlemost sensor. That's my guess, but I don't know. So, and I love these other just little bits where we got kind of the spec sheet breakdown. Android Headlines is really trying to play this up. It's going to include a 5,150 milliamp hour capacity battery, larger than even the $1,300 Galaxy S25 Ultra. Whoa! It's got a bigger battery than a Galaxy Ultra. Like a OnePlus 13. OnePlus 13R. It's not hard getting a bigger battery than I was going to say. If it does have 100-watt wired charging, I'm going to be very excited to see that. I don't know what else is. It says 6.7-inch OLED at full HD plus resolution, 20:9 aspect ratio. So it'll be kind of just the 1080p pixel pitch that we're looking at. And then it's going to have a Snapdragon 8S Gen 4. Yeah, that's how you say it. The 8S Gen 4, which looks like an evolutionary sort of offshoot of Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. So I would be very surprised if, again, my benchmark for crushing mid-ranger performance is the OnePlus 13R. I obviously like these products, right? So I'm definitely putting my preferences up front. I'm not saying you should not like this phone or you should not like other phones, that you have to agree with me, but I am telling you why I have the opinions that I do. I have preferences because I am a human being. I bet you we're going to be in a very similar ballpark performance-wise. Maybe some clock speed upticks, maybe a little bit of extra CPU grunt when we're really digging into something like video editing. But comparing an 8S Gen 4 to an 8 Gen 3, I think we're going to be pretty close. I'm going to be very surprised if Qualcomm has a significant generational difference in performance, because I think Qualcomm is looking at the future of their own unique CPU cores. So the 8 Elite has Orion cores, the 8S Gen 4 has ARM reference design cores. So whatever ARM kind of designs, that's what's going into an 8 Gen 3 and 8S Gen 4. If we call it the Elite, that's what Qualcomm is designing for themselves. So we're seeing that fork. I doubt Qualcomm is really sitting there going, hey, what we need is huge generational differences and improvements in performance while we're using a competing chip design. I think they really want to show this is what our stuff does, and this is why our stuff is better than the ARM reference design stuff. And I think that's going to be their big play as we look at whatever the 8 Elite Gen 2 or whatever they're going to call this stuff. I really hate the way that Qualcomm changed up their naming, then made it more confusing, and then broke the naming convention and made it even more confusing still. Hold on one second. Let me just take a drink of coffee. man. Hold on, let me get back through some of these. There's some great comments in here, so let me get through here. And especially because a lot of you disagree with me, and I want that. I really want you to disagree with me, and I really want you to keep talking about nothing, because I feel like I'm missing something. It can't just be my hypothesis that they're choosing to market to enthusiasts like OnePlus used to, and that's why we like them. It's got to be more. From Tangential Tesseract, but does the lens have megapixels? How many megapixels are on your camera lens? It's probably a really nice camera. That's why you take nice photos. Not because you're a good photographer, but probably because your lens has more megapixels on it. Goat V8 says, I can appreciate the glyphs are the closest thing we're going to get to a notification LED, which I miss dearly. I'm also not a fan of always on displays because I just think they're more distracting than they need to be, when we could just have, like you're saying, a little notification light would be fine. I would highly recommend people get into a workflow where they can offload that to something else. If it's an audio solution, if it's a smartwatch or a fitness band or a tracker of some kind, like, I feel real good. Where's my OnePlus 13? I don't know where my phone is. it's it's in a sea of not glowing, of dark rectangles that they all have their screens off. I think it's over there on the edge of my table. But I know if I get a notification, it's going to come to my watch or it's going to come to my eyeballs. I'm telling you, moving to a strategy where you're saying, I'm only going to pay attention and pick up my phone with purpose when there is a reason for me to do so, is so liberating. It feels real good. But yeah, like, I feel like glyphs are an offshoot of that idea, and that would be cool. But the practicality of that, I feel like once the novelty wears off, is that something that people really do continue to like. I love listening to music and seeing lights flash on the back of my phone. A lot of times I'm listening to music and I'm really listening to music, like I'm really wanting to enjoy it. I'm doing the thing where I close my eyes because I just want no other sensory input but then what's going into my ears. From Box Fabio, won't AI image processing make all the gigapixel less important? It's tricky because I feel the only reason why a 50 megapixel mode, or now on these 200 megapixel cameras, the only reason those photos are functional at all is because of really aggressive improvements to AI image processing. And we got to stop saying AI, because this is the basic machine learning stuff that we've had since, was it the Huawei Mate 9 Pro or the Mate 10 Pro? But when you look, so I've done this before, and if you catch the longer camera deep dives that I do, when we talk about something, like I did a specific breakdown on the 200 megapixel sensor on the Vivo X200 Pro. And when you really crop into that, your image degrades radically fast, but you don't see a lot of noise. That's machine learning processing. So I like to take these, like, I'm not a great landscape photographer. I'm really not. I'm pretty bad at it. But I have enough, like, scenic views out here that as long as you can functionally point your camera in the right direction, it's still kind of a nice shot. And the second you use that 200 MP mode, if you go farther than what the 12 megapixel image would have looked like, all of the detail becomes this wormy, no noise, artificial, plasticky look. If you crop further than what 12 MP would have looked like, it immediately turns into this I used to joke like, oh, it looks kind of like a watercolor. It doesn't even look like that anymore. Watercolor just used to look kind of blurry and kind of noisy. Like the noise would become problematic and you'd lose detail because you're really pushing beyond that sensor's limits. Now it looks like a bad rotoscoping worm effect. And it looks hyper artificial, super plasticky. And I think that is because of machine learning. I think it is because of this last step in processing, is making a guess on what that information would be, and it's putting stuff into the photo that doesn't really exist. And instead, we could just have more grain. Like, more noise in a photo, even in a daylight photo, looks really good. For example, girls had a softball tournament, right? I'm trying to shoot action, and I'm juggling a couple phones. I even brought my mirrorless camera. I took my Lumix out of the office for the first time in like years. But even with a mirrorless camera, what am I doing? I want crazy fast shutter speeds. I've got pictures where the bat's hitting the ball, and you can see the impact of the ball into the bat is causing the bat to warp just that little bit. But the speed of the swing is also kind of playing with the camera sensor. But to make sure all of that is crystal, I'm shooting at a much higher ISO, and I'm balancing that with a stupid fast shutter speed, like at least 1/4000th of a second. Sometimes I was going like 1/6000th, 1/8000th, and I know I'm gonna get more noise. To really like line up that shot, to really capture it, to really freeze that motion, I know it's gonna be a grainier image. Because also, like, one of our dugouts, we were on like the first baseline, and all of our girls were, as the sun's setting, they're actually in shadow. They're actually silhouetted against the sun at sunset. So I'm shooting an even higher ISO, even though if I were metering for the ballpark, I could use a much lower ISO, but then they'd just be outlines. They'd just be dark shadows. So I would have to shoot an even higher ISO to lift up the shadow value so you could actually see the players on the field. Sorry, short story, incredibly long. Those photos look so cool because they're grainy. They look like old baseball photos. And I even do something stupid, like just desat, turn that photo black and white, and it looks artistic. You see this girl, perfect swing, balls right on the bat curving around the ball. You know that ball was about to get launched. Chain link fence out of focus in the foreground, helmet down, chin down, just these muscles rippling, and black and white, grainy photo looks amazing. It looks like art. I do not make art. I'm not an action photographer. I'm not a sports photographer. But I put that photo up on the parent group chat, and boy howdy did people flip out. Two parents asked, even not their kid, two parents asked if I could send them the full resolution file just separately so they could do a printout. Like they wanted to do it as a coach's gift. Like, it's so good. So whenever we do this machine learning thing where we try and like, oh, well, we can upscale. No, because what you're going to do is you're going to kill it with noise reduction. You're going to blur out all the detail. Then machine learning is going to make up stuff, and it's going to look like your photo's infested with digital worms. It's going to look so gross. And you can try it yourself. If you've got a phone with like a super high resolution megapixel mode, take like a really good landscape shot, 12 MP raw, and then do the 50 or 200 megapixel mode JPEG and just zoom in. And one's gonna look like a grainy, dirty photo, and the other's gonna look like plastic. It's gonna look wormy. It's gonna look fake. Sorry, really long-winded there. Paul the T Guy, the Nothing 3A actually surprised me with what you get for your money. It's a great time to get a mid-ranger. I feel like the last part of my Nothing critique is price. As soon as we know tomorrow, as soon as we know the price on the Nothing Phone 3, I'll either pan it even harder, or I'll shut up and say, hey, you know what? That sounds like a really good competitive phone for the price. That's the last critical bit of information, because none of this stuff exists in a vacuum. Just the specs on the page look fine, but if fine is $550, I'm gonna go with the OnePlus. If fine is $399, then I'm gonna freak out and say, like, oh man, this is an incredible buy. Forget Pixel, forget OnePlus, this thing looks like a monster. It's context. That's what we need to see. From Tangential Tesseract, Nothing has always seemed like a brand focused on aesthetic, not being a better computer. They never caught my attention for that reason. I've always been curious. What is it that they bring to the table that no one else does? And I hear Glyph and I hear dot matrix launcher, and it's so fluid and it does these animations, and you're like, that's cool, but that's sort of true of every phone now. So I just really want to see, what does that mean? Hold on, I got to get another drink of coffee here, and then Lord, we're gonna keep moving here. Hold on one second. Okay. Oh man, sorry, I just got a message too, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Um. Oh, okay, no. So this is good. You know how I was saying, like, I've got a whole bunch of videos and stuff coming up, and I got to be really careful. And oh, Jackery, I'm not under embargo for Jackery. So Lord Lopez or Lord Lopes, you tell me. I hate that nothing is not in my country yet, but at least we got in Vivo away. At least we got in away Vivo back to business. Did you like the X200 FE? Uh, how'd you know? So I reached out to the folks at Vivo because I am spending time. I've just, it's on a loan. I'm not going to keep this phone. I really like it. It's not that I don't like it, but I just have too many devices that I can't sell, right? So like I can spend $1,500 on a phone and use it and then try to offload it. And I'm sure people would be like, yeah, you could just send it to me for free, but I can't really sell like a Chinese spec phone. So I'm borrowing the Vivo X200 Ultra. It's a monster. Full camera deep dive coming soon. I've got the big old lens attachment on it right now, the super zoom lens, but I'm not keeping this phone. Borrowing it. Really appreciate the folks that I'm working with. One of them on my hat here. Really great. But the folks at Vivo were like, hey, we also have this other launch coming out. Do you want to check it out too? So while I was at the softball game, after the embargo had already lifted, this box arrived with the X200 FE. So I can literally open this box right now here on camera. So here's, and it's kind of a little dented. I hope everything's okay, but here's the X200 FE, and I can lift it out of this little case here. And let's take this wrapper off. Just take this paper and chuck this paper, and I can pull this little, I hate these stickers and stuff. Oh, hold on, is that a tab? Or no? I was hoping that they would have like a little thing I could peel off. Oh no, it is. Oh, that's cute. Okay, so you know how they always put the like all of your super confidential information on the back of the phone? So I'm just gonna peel this off right here, and they had a tab so you could just remove it. And that's super handy. I'm gonna put that in the box. And this is just a cute little phone. This is little mini X200. Two big circles on the back, one little circle. I'm hoping that we start to see more of the ring flash tech from the V series on the X. With these huge camera modules, it would be so cool if we could ring that. Like how big this circle is on the back. Imagine if this entire thing could light up like the V series. Those V series ring flashes are so good. I mean, again, it's a mid-ranger phone that can take your portrait photography up to a much better level, especially when you're in kind of poor light. So if their flash modules start picking up some of that ring flash kind of tech, that would be huge for Vivo. But just cute. This is real cute. Like everything's flat. There's no edges or curves or bumps or anything. Just real cute. I'm gonna have more to say on the X200 FE very, very soon. I genuinely could not remember when the embargo lifted, but we can start talking about it now. And then in the box, let's see. I've got a SIM card tool. I want to see if it just has like a bumper. So I think this might be a bumper case. Just something that I can start. Oh, no, that's the bottom of the box. We don't want to open that. Oh, this is good. I like this. Okay, Vivo. Definitely keep doing more of this. When your older X series phones came out, you would do like a special hard plastic case that looked like the back of the phone. So instead of a clear bumper, which will look real gross after a couple weeks, maybe a month of use, they put in a bumper that matches the color of the phone. How adorable is that? You just put this on like right there. Here, I'm just gonna put this on. And now the phone is just this continued like sherbet green color. That's delightful. I'm so charmed by that. Little teeny phone. I want to see. Let's see. This is next to an older. This is a Xiaomi 13, and the X200 FE is smaller than the Xiaomi 13. So if we've got good cameras on the back of a little mini phone like this, I think a lot of people are gonna dig that. I think a lot of people are gonna like it. And then I just want to see if it's got the charger, because that's the other thing that's been kind of tricky. Oh, this is heavy. I hope this is. Charger in the box. There's a cable. And then on the other side, charger in the box. What is this? Output up to 80 watt. Is that what I'm looking at? Was that 8.2 amp? Yeah, I think this is a 90 watt charger. I wish they would put that bigger on the label. Yeah. Oh, there it is. Vivo. Fast charge, 90 watt. So depending on region, of course, but in the kit that they sent me, you do get a really nice bumper case and a 90 watt charger in the box. So that will be coming also to the channel very soon. Vivo X200 FE. I'm actually more positive on the Vivo X200 FE than I am on the Vivo X200. I'm gonna have to follow up. I don't know if Barry Johnson ever got his hands. I sent the X200 out to another mutual friend just to let them kind of play with it like a loaner. And then I was like, hey, you know, spend some time with it. There's no rush. But when you're done, you know, just send it directly to Barry. And Barry was like, yeah, I'll reach out. I don't know if they're done with it yet. And then I never heard anything. So I wonder if they're feuding over a phone. So, Lord Lopes, X200 FE is giving off a delightful first impression. I'm very happy for that. Paul the T guy saying, I like the look of that limited edition Poco F7. That's another one I really want to spend some time with. From Vazikos, I hope at least a 1/2-inch sensor behind that periscope. I would be willing to bet that it's likely, I seriously doubt nothing is going to have a 1/2-inch. I bet you it's going to be that 1/2.7-inch type. So what is that, like maybe a JN1 kind of sensor? I think it's going to be little. I think it has to be little. And I bet you that periscope is going to be closer to something like the OnePlus 12. So the OnePlus 12 had, and I hope it is like the OnePlus 12 where it's also close focusing. So you won't have crazy zoom. Like maybe it'll only be like a 3-time zoom, maybe a 4-time zoom, something in there, limited reach, but better optics and better close focusing, so it could also be your macro shooter. The OnePlus 12 actually has a better camera all around, better cameras than the OnePlus 13. Oh, JGJ, do filters matter more than true capture on smartphone photos? Still thinking of that idea we discussed, BTS. Yes, and JGJ, I am looking into that. I'm going to start talking to a guru. JGJ has a really cool idea for a video topic, a practical photography topic, and I'm going to try and find like some actual experts, not just me going, I don't know, maybe you just don't look good. I want to talk to someone about like, how can you make this photo of yourself look better? So when it comes to advertising yourself, I think photos matter than actual authentic output. Absolutely. I mean, you look at like dating apps and stuff, like you want to make yourself look as good as possible to get to that next step. I think filters are a really big deal. I am interested in the authentic capture of a moment. What my strengths are macro photography and candid photography. I'm not a good landscape photographer. I'm not a good action sports photographer. I am a phenomenal candid photographer. I love sneaking in and getting those real moments as like two people go in for a hug or you see two people share a laugh or just the interactions, like that kind of street photography, candid photography. I am an animal at that. So I don't like filters because that takes away from the authenticity of the moment. Those are not the photos that I would recommend people use for a dating profile. um Oh, Michael Peppertech, did you see Samuel Nam's post about the 5 phones he carries for different use cases? It was both funny and true. No phone really does everything well. I can absolutely attest to that. I can usually get away with 2. I prefer going to 3. If I have 3 phones on me, I know I've got every single base covered to the best of what each of those phones brings to the table. I feel beyond 3, I am now focusing, I'm siloing each phone's use so much that I'm juggling phones more than I'm really getting stuff done. For me, 3. I'm Captain 3 phones. 3 phones really does land me in exactly the place that I want to be. But I can totally see why a nerd, a tech reviewer, would drill down to that kind of specificity. This is the phone that I use for this one exact thing. This is a phone that I use for that one exact thing. And if I have the best tool for each of those jobs, I'll carry the best tool for each of those jobs. JMan150, did you see one that the 8 Elite 2 might be over 5 gigahertz? I've been seeing people talk about like clock speed on phone processors. I think our performance per watt is really the metric we need to look at more. I think it's really easy to get a chip up to a higher clock speed. I think it's hard to get a chip to do more within a specified power envelope. So if 5 gigahertz hits, that's awesome. That is, no, I should say that is really cool from just like a pure science engineering standpoint. But is it scaling? At 5 gigahertz, are we really getting more work done to offset the power that's being consumed? Because that's where I think MediaTek still is eating Qualcomm's lunch. A Dimensity 9400, a MediaTek Dimensity can consume more power than a Snapdragon. At like peak load, when you're really at the top of what that phone's peak performance is like, I think it could be something as much as like 2 watts. That could be almost a 10 to 15% increase in power consumption. But then it'll get a task done like 50% faster. So I'll take the hit at consuming 15% more electricity if the task is done 50% faster. So that's what I want to see. I think Orion Core, whatever Orion Core we're looking at next, is going to be a pretty big deal. But that's the efficiency play. Like I really want to see where Qualcomm takes this next kind of gen on their chip arch, and that they're also still using ARM stuff for a lot of their products. Sorry, I'm way behind on the chat here. Let me try and catch up. Michael Peppertech, these devices have great rear camera sensors and then horrible front cameras or vice versa, and then sometimes the interoperability with other devices sucks. It's finding what appeals to us the most. And again, that's why I like to get very specific about what someone's use might be. For example, we're talking photography, and you're not like me. You're not a candid macro shooter. If you're looking at the portraiture, you might want to look at something like a Vivo V series even over a Vivo X. Save money, great daily driver performance, even better battery life, and a ring flash that highlights portrait style photography, right? So exactly to that point, MPT, it's like if we're not getting that specific about it and you're just saying like, well, it's got to have the bestest camera. It's a Pixel. Pixels have the bestest cameras. then what you're saying is like everyone's an idiot. You might as well eat slop. I shouldn't say slop. The pixel cameras aren't that bad. But again, for just AI stuff and for image processing, sorry, I set my napkin way far away and I spilled coffee all over my legs here. It's just kind of funny. Like, that's how we frame a conversation. If you're too dumb to do anything but just push the shutter button, then everybody needs the Pixel. No one should ever buy a steak because babies can't chew it. Why do you even? What do you even need? Who even needs? What do you even do? Sorry, I'm getting cranky. Yeah, Delanbit. Funny how a lot of cheaper phones have larger batteries, not news anymore. And Delanbit, the thing that drives me crazy, they're getting larger batteries and the lower power chips. Put a huge battery on a Snapdragon 7. Put a huge battery on a Dimensity 7000. So many more people want that. Like, there's a reason why here in Southern California, people aren't exclusively driving 12-cylinder hyper-exotic engines. Right? Gas prices, man. You see a majority of drivers out on the road on like 4-cylinders and V6s. Even with our penchant for pushing everyone into SUVs, the mid-size V6 SUV is a very popular product segment because gas expensive, yo. Tim Tillich, I keep overlooking the CMF line. That's on me. It is not through any ire or shade. I'm not trying to exclude them, but I'm a solo producer and I have limited time, and I have absolutely not done my due diligence in picking up a CMF. In fact, like JGJ was saying, I'm actually more interested in what they can do with a proper lower mid-ranger tiered device than I am what their flagship product might look like. I need to get over my hurdle there and pick up some CMF because I think that is a more compelling buy than the Nothing phones are. Let me see. Oh, hold on, let me take another drink of coffee now that I've spilled it all. Oh, Umar Islam, this is kind of an interesting take. I think it's more of a Nothing failing to be a hype beast brand and are slowly going back to an enthusiast brand. Umar, you might actually have a really good read on that. Again, what's going to make that delineation, what's going to make that difference between a hype aesthetic brand versus an enthusiast brand is literally going to be, what does this phone cost? Can they eat the profit margin to get enthusiasts excited about what should be a pretty decent higher performance device? That's it. You know what I mean? Like, until we know that last little bit of data, we're all just kind of speculating on what is the value and who's going to be the right fit for this phone. And it's going to come down to cost, especially in a market where globally we have such huge instability on parts and pricing and shipping and stuff. Michael Peppertech. I wish Carl Pei would spend less time trying to slam other companies and make products that don't have lights just to be different. Focus on specs and features that matter. I'm in that vibe. I had a delightful conversation with Carl Pei. Did I say Pie? I had a delightful conversation with Carl shortly after the OnePlus 6 launch. And I mean, you can see why he generates so much engagement and why companies sort of trust him to lead in directions. He was so forthright. He like, and it wasn't like a press conference. We were at a OnePlus event. It was me and Jaime. We were at the bar. Carl walks up, and we had this one-off conversation. He was like, "Yeah, I know. Like, we still have some things to work out, and yeah, the camera situation on the OnePlus 6. I think we're gonna do some interesting things for the OnePlus 7. But like, we put out this product with these ideas, and like, we had this whole exchange. And it's like, when you're immediately face to face with them, it's impossible not to be charmed. But MPT, to your point, like, what's gonna sell phones? I mean, think about all of the people in your family, your circles, your family and friends. Like, we wouldn't be doing a whole new iPhone operating system if the aesthetic of glass transparency effects wasn't enough of a novelty to get people interested in talking about iPhone for a couple of weeks, right? So the novelty matters, the aesthetic matters. I get it. I totally do. But right now I'm hosting a podcast for around 70 people listening in this moment, and I know I'm talking to nerds. And I know that if I bring up things like, hey, I edited a softball video for my daughter on my phone, that y'all will at least go with me on part of that conversation. From Tim Tillich, I know a lot of your reviews have mentioned that current chipsets are overpowered with what we do with them. So even dropping to the CMF phone 1 with a MediaTek Dimensity 7300, it runs great. Tim, dude, I mean, not only am I, you totally nailed my frustrations, but think about what we're talking about, right? Oh, even if we're slumming it with a Dimensity 7300, the Dimensity 7300 is still overkill. It's still overkill performance for most average consumers' daily needs. That's what's so wild to me. If you're picking up a phone with an 8 Elite, again, you are talking about hyper exotic performance. You have a chip that does battle with 13th gen laptop Intel Core i7s, including dedicated graphics, outperforming the dedicated graphics on an Intel 13th gen Core i7. That's in a laptop with active cooling. And a Dimensity 9400 is even more powerful than the Snapdragon 8 Elite. What are we doing? Why are we still like, but you know, like your phones are for watching your TikToks? Tangential Tesseract, I know I already said it in the Patreon thread, but I so badly want to see what OnePlus can do with the desktop mode, given how well they did their tablet-y UI. If we can bring some of that panel interface, plug it into another screen, kind of control that experience, I think Oppo could do really well. Because also, out of all of the other brands and manufacturers, I think Oppo is one of the less concerned manufacturers about displacing laptop sales. Like Xiaomi, they make some pretty decent laptops. They might not want to put a phone out there that could displace laptop sales. I know Oppo has a whole bunch of other product lines and stuff like that, but I think they've got sort of the minimal. They're one of the bigger manufacturers with the least invested in proper laptop style computing. I think they could do it. I really do. Streamline it, make it pretty, get that animation engine working on it. Just give us a few of the little like rough spots, like clean up the letting the phone screen turn off problem that Pixels can't do. It takes so little. And Oppo could make a good argument for now we've got the pro level phones that can do all this extra work, just like everybody, just like Motorola, just like Samsung. I think Oppo could really rock that. Bionic Scoop. I get sick to my stomach when people say, your camera takes amazing photo. Bionic Scoop, you must have a really good camera. I saw that photo of like that luchador leaping through the air, and it was frozen perfectly, and the expression you got on his face was just awesome. Like, what kind of camera are you using? Because you must have a really nice camera. Everyone say hey to my Aunt Kathy. I love listening to you talk about Lexi's baseball games. You are so talented, my wonderful nephew. Would love to see the pictures of Lexi. I will be updating a family photo album soon. We just got back. I mean, like, we were on the road. We were down in San Diego. So I was in the car for 4 hours yesterday, driving back up. And I've got roughly 3,000 team photos that I've got to chew through trying to get those action shots because I am not good at action photography. So I will get some shots out there soon on Kathy. Everyone say hey to my Aunt Kathy. She's good people. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. From Lanke. Which is more important in mobile SoCs, higher clock speeds like Snapdragon 8 Elite 2 coming with 5 gigahertz, or IPC, which MediaTek and ARM are focusing on? Unfortunately, there's not one good answer. I would defer you to someone like Dr. Ian Cuttress over at Tech Potato, because I think he has shown consistently, and a lot of what I talk about when I talk about silicon, like I learned it by watching him, Dad. I learned it by watching him. It becomes highly situationally dependent. If an app depends on single core performance, you're probably going to want clock speed. If the app was originally designed to run well on an iPhone, though, then you're probably going to want better multi-core performance, and then your IPC improvements matter a lot more. So you can keep multiple cores running at putting out more work and minimizing the amount of power that you're putting out, or that you're consuming to get that work done. It's not easy because we don't really have a good handle on what apps benefit from which strategies until you just get the device, put the app on the device, and then see, did it do better or worse? Because like those IPC improvements from the Dimensity 9200 to the 9300, we actually didn't see like a radical change in this like single core performance. We got kind of the expected generational uplifts, but MediaTek did a ton of work on other things like maximizing file compression performance. So suddenly the chip is doing things with apps that require squishing information, and it's like you got a 3-generation upgrade in performance. So it's that kind of stuff. It's like, until I can put LumaFusion, PhotoMate, and Audio Evolution on a phone, I can't always predict which of the improvements are going to make a more meaningful impact. And I think it's irresponsible for people to go, but the Geekbench number's bigger. Because right now, the 8 Elite wins the Geekbench and Antutu scores, right? So then why is it so bad at chewing up video? If you like to use an app like CapCut or LumaFusion, you shouldn't be on a Snapdragon. You should be on a Dimensity. And that's just pure brute force. Because I bet you those developers probably develop or try to optimize first for Qualcomm, and they're likely not giving MediaTek a lot of attention. For Michael Peppertech, I could help you reduce the clutter with borrowing of said devices. We could chat offline, MPT. I think we can chat for sure. I'm so far behind, like you guys. I'm just now getting to comments about the X200 FE. Sorry. Oh, Bionic Scoot. I took the opposite route. I make myself look as terrible as possible. I suck at macro and landscape. Here's pretty not fun right about now. Your action shots are phenomenal. So again, I'm trying to keep up with 8U girls softball while you're like shooting wrestlers doing incredible things, and like, again, I'm trying to crib as much as I can off of people like you, Scoop. So I'm trying to keep up. Let's see. Let me kind of scooch down here. Yeah, I'm sorry. Like a lot of folks were kind of bringing up some comments about the X200 FE. So I'm gonna have to dig into that a little bit more and just see what's going on. And a couple people were saying, "Hey, shout out to Aunt Kathy." Let me get that there. So, how about, because we were just talking about Vivos and cameras and stuff, I can't get comprehensive, but I do have a few thoughts, because literally on my desk right now are 3 variations on the same generation of Vivo. But like I said, I've got this Vivo X200, and it's got this big ol' hunkin' lens. The lens like weighs more than the phone, I think. It's a metal body lens with actual Zeiss branding on it. Yeah, Zeiss optics. It's a really long extension magnification for the phone. While I started playing with the X200 Ultra, though, the company Neewer, Neewer, I've never known how to pronounce it, and I'm not going to learn today. they came out with a camera cage for the Xiaomi the Xiaomi 15 Ultra, and this is one of the best camera cage cases I've ever held. It's got two cold shoe mounts, and one of them even has like a little retention, the little ball clip, so that when you slide something in, it locks in place. It's really nice. It's got screw mounts on all sides. So you can attach a grip, you can attach it to a tripod, you can attach other accessories that use that same camera filter thread. And then it's got threads on 3 of your camera sensors, which is very impressive considering how close the medium telephoto and the ultra wide, I believe it's medium tele and ultra wide, are so close together. You can't have a full cover filter thread, 17 millimeter thread on the medium tele camera. But they still managed to do this like 3/4 circle threaded mount so that you can still lock lenses to that medium telephoto. Metal construction. The only thing that sucks is that it puts so much depth on the USB-C that you can't plug in microphone receivers that have like the little arm. So like something DJI style. So I have to use this cage with my Rode wireless mics because that's just a regular cable I can plug that in. This thing is gorgeous. All metal construction, little plates that you can pop the plate out. If I want to go to ND filters, I can pop in a different plate and use ND filters. Just really, really well constructed. Newer also has a really big, I'm holding this like a cigar. Cha-cha. Really, really big telephoto, really long telephoto camera. I have not taken it out to shoot yet. I've been spending all my time with the X200 Ultra's long camera, but it's a 17 millimeter attachment. So it's not like a T-mount, it's not proprietary, and that immediately is one of my concerns with the Vivo. With the Vivo. The Vivo camera, the Vivo lens here, has a great locking system. So it's got this little button, you push the button and it detaches the lens, it pops it out. It's kind of like an actual mechanical apparatus like you would find on a mirrorless camera. So I can put this in, it's got a mount, and I line up, I line up and it locks in place, and it's a part of the phone case, it's a part of the phone frame, it's rigid, everything locks in place. This is great. My problem is, will Vivo hold to this as an accessory forever? So an X300 will have to use this same mount, and it's kind of a complicated mount, but it will have to use this same mount for every phone moving forward. If we don't get a case from Vivo that has this locking mount on it, then this lens can't move on to the next phone. It's a little like Moto mods. If we don't have magnets and pogo pins, then that Moto mod is done. It can't go on to the next phone. The newer lens, and I'll say this right up front, the newer lens is not as nice as the Vivo. The optics are not as clear, they're not as sharp. It's kind of like I'm going to something that feels a little bit more like a telescope and a little less like a super high clarity, beautiful camera lens. But it's on a 17 millimeter thread. So I have other cases. Oh, you know what? I can actually do this here. I have my Xiaomi 13 Ultra. So let me take this. I'm going to take this lens off of my 15 Ultra. See, I just unscrew the lens. And I have my Xiaomi 13 Ultra. Now this plate didn't come from Newer. The plate that I have on my 13 Ultra came from Photor Gear. But I can take this, let me see which one is my telephoto. And it's on a 17 millimeter thread. Come on. Have them lined up funny. So look, on a Photor Gear plate, I can attach the Newer to my 13 Ultra, it moves to different phones. So as long as I can get some kind of mount or case or accessory that has a 17 millimeter filter, I can keep using my 17 millimeter lenses. I've got a couple macro lenses. I've got an anamorphic optic. I've got some fun things that I like to play with. I don't use them a lot in my videos or reviews, but I know I've got a continuity. I can move this to a couple of different phones. It's not just for one phone, and then if they give up on that accessory, then that it can't keep being used. So that is my one big concern for the Vivo. Optics to optics, the Zeiss lenses, they're real good. Real good image clarity. I still need to shoot more with the newer, especially in more outdoor light, but it does have its own separate adjustment ring. It's not really quite a focusing ring. It's kind of a what sensor are you using it with, so you can dial in kind of the clarity. I haven't gotten a good feel for it yet. So like my indoor samples look garbage, but that's also a user error as much as it is like just, I bet you this is kind of lower quality optics than what's in the Vivo solution. But yeah, so if you want, you can have kind of a ridiculous telephoto reach here. If you want just, you really want to get some zoom going on. It's absurd. It really is. It's silly to have this kind of thing like sticking out the back of a phone, but I also kind of adore it. I kind of love it. Like we're getting some respect for how good these camera sensors really are, that it's making more and more sense to start giving us adapters and optics and filters, because our phones really do benefit from having more photography style tools. Whether or not this convinces you to take your smartphone photography more seriously, that's definitely kind of that's an up to you. It's a personal kind of decision there. But I like that we're getting more of these options. I wish Xiaomi, actually with their own camera kit, I wish Xiaomi was giving us more stuff like this. Because the Xiaomi photography kit does have support for filters, but I want lens optics. I want more of that kind of adjustment. So it's pretty wild. Let's see, from Rob Albano. There are so many third-party ones out now. I'm tempted to get one for the X200 Pro. I hate that the lens isn't backwards compatible. You know, I feel like Vivo is one of my all-time favorite phone manufacturers. I've just adored the X series since I got my hands on the X70. So was that X70, X80, X90, X100X? Like the last 5 generations of Vivos have just totally rocked my socks. But it has been disappointing. Like we're not getting the Ultras. I wish Vivo would maybe make it more of like a limited release. Like, hey, we're gonna do 10,000 Ultras internationally, and they're gonna be expensive. But like when you see what an Ultra can do, it's pretty special. It's a really cool phone. I think that kind of presentation, that kind of ostentatiousness could go a while. But then to your point, it's also like we're kind of doing things in one generation. And I'm hoping Xiaomi doesn't start falling into this trap too. Every phone needs to have its bespoke accessories and mounts and filters and threads and lenses and all this stuff. And then when you buy the next year's phone, you need to buy all of these new things over again. So when I saw this camera cage for the 15 Ultra, like, yeah, that camera cage isn't gonna fit a 16 Ultra, but I didn't have to buy a bunch of different accessories. I've got a grip, screws right in. I've got tripods, they attach perfectly. I've got mics, I've got lights, I've got all this stuff, and I can just put it on the phone, and all I needed was the cage. And so when I get the 16 Ultra, I'll get a new cage, and then all of my other stuff should still just work. I want people to know that if you buy an accessory, it'll outlive the phone. That's what I care about. One of these lenses will definitely outlive the phone. The other lens might. if Vivo decides to continue with that kind of strategy. Oh, and Vazikos, the Zeiss has pins for EXIF data. That's a game changer. Yeah, I mean, again, it is nice. It is a proper mount. I'm not just saying like, oh, it's like a quick release and you just detach it. No, this is an impressive solution that feels so mechanically like, I just love that mechanical action. It feels so much like you put a real camera lens on a real camera. It's probably one of those cameras that has like a 50 megapixel lens. It's probably a real good camera. Scoop has a real good camera. You should see his photos. If you had a camera like Scoop, you could probably take real good photos. Yeah, and Tangential Tesseract and John Gao, these points, that's absolutely what I'm trying to bring to the table. Being able to bring a peripheral along to more devices over time is pretty critical if you're spending more on it. John Gao says, continuity is such a great point, loving this conversation. John Gao, how is the stabilization when using that telephoto lens on the 15 Ultra? It's not great. The phone does not know what to do with it. You really have to handle that yourself. It's pretty great. And Nick Gay, you know what will help people take their mobile photography more serious? Juan's book. Promo. I am so far behind on an update. Man, I keep saying that about all this stuff right now. One of the chapters I'm rewriting is my chapter on accessories. Because I think this is also what's kind of funny. So like Newer sells this camera lens, right? That is a huge piece of glass. The camera lens is almost as long as the phone is long. You don't have to put it on their cage. What you could do, here, let me unscrew it from the cage. What comes in the box for the phone is a little lens clip. So you get this clip that has a screw that pushes into your screen, and you could screw this humongous lens into this flimsy piece of plastic that then, you know, here, let's do this on the X200 FE. And so you put the lens on this, you see, and then you screw this down so that it stays in place. And see now, you've got a little mini phone with a giant lens on it. I don't know about you, because this isn't a terribly expensive lens. That's also why I feel it looks a little like you've got inexpensive telescope optics in this assembly. But even for that, I don't know that I would want to have this big long lens braced by just putting a pad screwed down and pushing up against the screen of my phone. Like, that is so much weight, and it makes the handling of the phone so awkward. I don't know. I kind of want that weight distributed in a safer way, like on a cage, across the entire back plate of the phone, not just braced and clipped sort of on the screen with a pad that's smaller than a nickel, which also then gets in the way of you operating stuff on the screen. So it's just kind of funny. Yeah, and MPT, exactly. That's what I loved about Moment lenses back when I was using them with my iPhones. I could go from year to year, and their iPhone cases continued to support them. I don't know that Vivo, I hope they do, and I really want them to, but I don't know that Vivo will have that same longevity, because that's not their company. Their company is not making lenses for phones, it's making phones. So we just got to see. I'm really hoping that an X300 will have the ability to use this lens. It would be really nice if an X300 Pro could use this lens. Like, that would be great. So yeah. Michael Peppertech with a good pause. That was a good one, MPT. I like it. I'm going to take one more drink of coffee. We got a half hour left, and I want to talk about some audio kit because I've had my ears in some headphones, and I have a lot of thoughts. Tangential Tesseract. If there was an open standard thread for these lenses to mount onto. So that's what 17 millimeter is. Yeah, 17 mil is... What is 17 mil was called something? And there was a whole series of cameras like C-mount where it was for like security cameras, and then C-mount kind of got adopted by 1-inch type camera sensors. But 17 mil is 17 mil. Like I just showed, from a Photor gear plate to a newer plate to I have a small rig and I have a beast grip, and they all have inserts for 17 mil. So most of the time you put the phone in a cage and you're just putting on like mics and lights, those kinds of accessories. Maybe you slap on an ND filter, but all of them have some type of attachment for 17 mil. So when you see these little camera lenses that have 17 millimeter, then you can use them universally. It doesn't matter what mount you put them on. For Michael Pepper Tech, Moment doesn't use 17 mil. Moment uses a T mount or a T, I forget what they call it. It's like a T bracket. So you'll see it's a circle that has these two little wings on the side, and you put it on those wings, and then you give it a quarter turn, and it locks into place. And I believe Photor Gear's T-mount should work with Moment lenses. Don't quote me on that. I haven't bought Photor Gear's T-mounts, but I think they are compatible. So look for 17 millimeter if you want to go in on that system, and then look for T-mount if you want to go in on Moment's system. And that's as close as we'll get to anything that's kind of universal or broadly adopted. Oh, yeah, tangential tesseract. That's, I think I answered your question, but yes, couldn't other brands make cases compatible with 17 millimeter then? Might be a niche market, but hey, yeah. Photor Gear and Newer both went in hard on 17 millimeter. Beast Grip has 17 millimeter. Small Rig has 17 millimeter. I'm trying to think, there are some others. And then if you're not doing something like this super wacky lens, this really, really long lens, there are tons of these 17 millimeter clips. Now, if I were to put a macro lens on this, I think that would be totally reasonable. That's not going to stick out crazy far. You can line it up exactly how you need to. You can also do some fun things with a macro where you take it just slightly off a perfect alignment, and it gives you not a tilt shift effect, but it gives you almost this like heavy vignetted Vaseline on the lens kind of a look. So you'll get one like strip of super sharp clarity, and then the lens blurs like in a really messy, in a really analog-y kind of way, but it can look really cool. And if you have a macro lens on one of these clips, you can slide that around and kind of get the effect or the look that you want. It looks a little like, I can't remember what that lens system was called, but there were these novelty lenses where you would have an optic on the front of your camera and it was on a bellows. So it was on this like rubber squishy thing, and you would literally hold your mirrorless camera or your DSLR, and you would squish the bellows in, and you could angle and move things around. And so no photo came out the same twice. There was no autofocus because you focused by squishing the lens in and out, and the optics were kind of low quality glass. So you got this warped tilt shift vignetted look to a pristine DSLR camera sensor. I can't remember what those were called. So, yeah. Oh, Nick Gay, when are we going to get the Juan Bagnell audio gear book? Some audio guy wrote so much about audio, he kind of burned himself out. I don't know that I'll do an audio book, but I have added a few passages just talking about like mics and recording and stuff. I could maybe add a little bit more to the photography book just to kind of help with video and stuff. So it's pretty cool. All right, now drink a coffee and let's switch some gears. Who's rocking some Sony headphones these days? Earbuds, cans, XM6s, XM5s, XM4s. Like what are we listening to? What are we listening on? What's going on with audio? Let's chat. Okay, so these are my WH-1000XM4s. I skipped the XM5s. The XM5s are great travel headphones. I think people should love them. I got up in my nerd feels. Juan's bias, here it comes, both barrels. I got up in my feels because when I'm looking at cans like the XMs here, I am looking for the best premium version of a travel headphone. AirPods Max, no go. I absolutely hate what Apple has done with the AirPods Max. The frame, how heavy they are, the stupid bra carry case thing, just the complete lack of consideration for having regular power controls on them. I hate the AirPods Max. They sound fine. They do. They're a fine sounding headphone that cost more than most premium audiophile headphones. But if you need the best interoperability with your iPhone, sure. But I hate how bad they are for travel, how heavy they are, how sweaty they get. I don't want a heavy headphone when I'm traveling. So I stuck with the XM4, mostly because of what I'm showing here on camera, that the XM4 can collapse into this cute little folded up origami presentation. The XM5s could not fold up. The XM5s, I think, sound better than the XM4s. They have better noise cancellation technologies, but I couldn't fold them. So I stuck with my XM4s. So you can imagine how nerdy, silly, happy I was that when the XM6 came out, that they could fold up and they could be all little and cute and they fit so well in my camera bag. You know, in where you would put a camera body and then you can fold up your headphones and make them all teeny and compact and you can just kind of put them in one of those little cubby spots in a camera bag. I finally have my travel headphone solution premium. Let's also just kind of front load that part of the conversation. I believe that the Sony XM6 are one of the best versions of this idea. A collapsible travel headphone focusing on the bleeding edge of noise cancellation and noise reduction technologies with good sound quality. This is not something that I sit at home and close my eyes and drift off to an amazing album. If I'm at home and the house is reasonably quiet, I have planar magnetics, I have open-backed headphones, I've got my Meze 105s, which are like hot chocolate duvet-covered blankets for your ears. They are delicious and luscious, and the Sonys aren't, that's not a fair comparison, right? A $400 standalone headphone versus a $400 travel wireless headphone, that's comparing oranges and race cars. Like, they're just not the same species at that point. But I did a write-up on the Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/somegadgetguy, you can hear I'm typing it out as I'm putting these headphones on for the very, 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 very first time. Sharing some of my thoughts, just what it was like getting my ears inside a new pair of Sonys. The initial sound quality actually had me kind of concerned. There are functional differences and technological differences, and I feel like Sony engineers might be trying to overcompensate for some of the specs on paper, literally driver size. Like the drivers on my XM4s are bigger than the drivers on my XM5s, but the XM5s are tuned bassier than my XM4s. So I feel like there are some of these little bits and pieces where the presentation of the headphone and the sound quality of the headphone are in conflict with the expectations of what makes for a good consumer travel headphone. But I I messed around with the tuning. I got it to a place where I really like what they can do. This is a high quality headphone, but I feel it needs a little help out of the box. And some people, I know that's going to turn them off. Like, they're so expensive, they should just work and sound perfect. And that's not a thing. No headphone is perfect. No headphone can be reviewed in a truly objective fashion for all ears. For example, I'm talking to you right now and you can see my earlobes waggle a lot because I've got real heavy hoops in my ears right now. Well, guess what? Stick out the bottom of the pads on my XM6 and break the seal on the noise canceling. My big ol' heavy earrings. So that's not fair to the headphones, but I have to be careful when I'm talking to you about the experience of listening to noise canceling cans. What I've got to do is like open up the headband and really kind of slide it out and then scoop the earring into the ear cup so it folds up. The bottom of my lobe kind of gets pulled up a bit. That's definitely having an impact on the noise canceling and the sound quality. It's so stupid. I love it. I love it so much. But my concerns about sound quality notwithstanding, the thing that I really do want to highlight as just a first impression. Again, I haven't put together a full video yet. I've only been listening to them for a weekend, like this travel weekend. I had to get a little writing done in between games, and it was nice. It was nice. Like, the girls were running around and being crazy and loud, and music was being played from some of the other ballparks and some of the other fields at the ballpark. And I could put these on, and just like everything just went further away. Everything just got quieter, and I could focus and I could write and I could respond to emails. It was delightful. I was so happy to see Sony go back to a folding frame, but I was concerned because the XM4s have a deserved reputation for being kind of a loud headphone. Like how the headband flexes, the parts that click and creak, the ear cups, the swivel, the hinge that's right above the ear cup as you flex the muscles in your jaw and the muscles on your head kind of push against the headphones, has an impact on the experience. They can be kind of creaky, a little loud, a little distracting. I I feel people like throw too much shade on the XM6. I mean the XM4s. Sorry, excuse me. If you've ever had your ears in some bare dynamic lagoons, those things, like, if I'm holding perfectly still, I feel like the headband is creaking if I blink. The lagoons were crazy noisy. The XM4s could get a little creaky, especially if like you're chewing and like the muscles are pushing up against the side. So I hear that they're going back to a collapsible headband design again. I'm concerned, like, hey, if they just take the XM4s and just kind of give it sort of the driver refresh, it's a little bit of a tweak. Actually, I don't think I'm gonna like that. They've got to like fix some of these other issues. So I get the XM6 and immediately you can see it is a complete and total redesign of the headphone. There is almost nothing the same as the XM4s except for the controls. So like you've got the tap sensor, like you can swipe to control volume, swipe to control tracks, and then tap the ear cup for play pause. That's kind of the only thing that stayed. The drivers are different, the internal processing is different, the noise canceling is different. The headband has no creaky parts. Like you heard me creak, like pop the XM4s. Here's the sound of sliding the headband on the XM6. There's no hard stop. There's no click, creak, anything. The hinge is this flat, straight piece now that bends in a different way, which translates or transfers almost no noise into the ear cup. These are from scratch a new audio product over the XM4s. So that's kind of where I just wanted to hang that, just sort of leave that off. Conversations about sound quality will be coming. I need to kind of dig into these a bit because I'm holding these up and I'm saying these are the best. I think these are the best travel noise canceling headphone on the market today. I think a lot of people might prefer the out of the box tuning on like a Bose, but if I'm saying just gold standard, best of the best, there's an expectation that you might care about spending almost $500 on a pair of headphones to maybe look at the Sony companion app and get the most for your money. If you just want to pull them out of the box and you only care about a certain kind of sound quality and you want really great noise canceling, again, maybe something like Bose, sure. I understand why someone might not want to dig into settings. But while I'm holding these up as the best, what if you were okay just having something really, really good? And that's actually where I think Sony and a lot of these brands that are playing in this premium tier, that's where I think they're starting. No, they're not starting. I feel like some of them are kind of missing what the real competition looks like at the more inexpensive end of this market. Like, for example, I have a one more here that I really like. It's a sub $100 headphone. One more has done incredible work in minimizing the noise on their headband and their joints and their swivel and their ear cups. The noise canceling tech is not in the same league as a Sony, but it's still tremendously effective at like blocking airplane engine noise. And depending on the sales, like this is a headphone that could come in at like $60 as compared to, oh, and I can collapse them and make them all little and cute and travel. Just, it's a travel Bluetooth noise canceling headphone at least, depending on the sales and stuff that you shop, at least $60 in that ballpark versus like $450 before a sale. So this is where I feel like Sony is still doing this audacious thing that I love. Sony engineers are making the best version of a product that they can. It's like the Sony neckband that I have here, the Bravia Theater U, right? This is a wearable speaker. You put it around your neck. They turned their engineers loose and said, hey, make the best version of this idea that you can. And this is a very expensive wearable speaker. I feel Sony engineers have also done something really exciting here on the XM6. This is the best version of a travel noise canceling headphone that Sony engineers could make. Brilliant. Beautiful. I flippin' love it. But if you don't need the best, the prices fall on really good really fast. So anyway, sorry, I did see a couple comments in here. Let me just kind of get to those. And then I want to wrap up because like I was showing those one mores and one more also sent over something else that's kind of fun just to kind of chat about. Let's see. We got some folks talking about earbuds. Okay, so I got this back up. John Gao is using the XM5s. That's pretty fun. I like those. Michael C. I haven't patronized Sony since they discontinued the XM2 neckband. Fair. Not a lot of neckbands. We could use a good XM style neckband earbud again. JGJ said used to be Sony, but now nothing, ear primary and some IEMs. JGJ, you're into nothing. Nothing. Oh, actually, Michael C is saying they went to a nothing neckband also. You can get those between $35 and $50 on Amazon. Ron Guido is on the XM5s. The XM5s definitely sound better than my XM4s. Michael Peppertech is saying, I'm still using my AirPods Max, but love my periodic audio IEMs with their neon and rhodium. Those periodic audios, they're niche, but man, they are so fun. I still trot out Carbon. Like they're really, really fun. Let's see, Darcy, I got my Sony XM4s for work and my LG Tone Flex XL7 for on the go, even though the right cable is starting to go. I love those things. That's a really fun combo. Again, like the XM4s still hit really hard today. It's just for me, it's and I'm not as bothered by the headband as some people try to make it sound like it's just such a huge deal breaker. But yeah, the XM4s are still going strong. Oh, Michael C saying Cringe just made a review for the XM6s and offered a custom EQ of some kind. I did the same. Did I? So on the Patreon, I'll just show it here right now on the video. Oh, I might not be able to. Screen share has been kind of funky. Let me see. I think it's going to cut off the bottom. Yeah, it kind of did. Let me see if I can scooch that up. So on the Patreon, you can see this graphic. Let me get it right there. You can see this graphic. These are the adjustments that I made to the EQ on the XM6. And this, for me, kind of brought up clarity, helped flesh out the mid-range. I don't know that we'll ever get these to sounding like, if you're a person who likes a good U shape or a deep V, you like a lot of bright, that sparkle, that air, you want that to be really crisp. I don't know that the XM6 as a noise canceling headphone are ever going to be good, super bright, airy cans. But there's a lot of room in the mids that I feel Sony engineers have completely disregarded. And it's a much darker tone than I was expecting after like living out of the XM4s with a very minimal adjustment to the XM4 EQ. The XM6s needed a bit more tinkering. I think they end up sounding better than my XM4s, but it took a little more work to get there, if that makes sense. Oh, and Orange Lamper saying basically I've got the same reasoning. I like to hear that we're simpatico. And Brian Glaze is like, I love that we're all excited that they can fold again. It's a travel headphone. It's like the best version of a travel headphone. I do not accept that I'm gonna go and take like a gaming headset on like an airplane and be like, oh god, time to put it back in my bag. And I've got like a case for that headphone that's bigger than some people's like carry-ons. Let's gonna put this back in there. No, like I need it. I need, not want, I need it to not take up a lot of space in my backpack. Tangential Tesseract is saying, how resilient do those hinges on the XM6 feel? That was the area that failed twice on the XM4s. So this is super early for me. I have really old, used, worn XM4s, and I have a brand new XM6. So right now, the XM6 feel much more sure-footed. But that's also because my XM4 I put hard miles on those XM4. So I don't know. They feel smoother, and there is no hard clasp ratchet feel to the headband sort of height or vertical adjustment. The hinge feels solid. It feels better than the XM4s. I'm hoping it will age more gracefully than the XM4s did. But I genuinely can't know until I've used them for a while if anything starts to pop up as an issue. Here, let me get that out of the way. Michael C., I don't like paying $450 for headphones that are going to be in a landfill in a few years. I wish they at least had an opportunity to be charged with a charged with a AA battery like the Bose QC25s. We still thankfully have headphone output, so you can listen as like a passive headphone if you want, but you're not wrong. My XM4s, even with the battery capacity not being class leading, the XM4s are still doing fine. Like I can take trips with the XM4s. I've gotten years of good constant use out of the XM4s. But again, I don't listen to them at home, so I'm not putting those extra charge cycles on them at home. I'm really only using them for travel, or I'll take them out to like a coffee shop. Like they're the best cafe headphones. I just want to get some writing done. I want to ignore everything that's going on around me. I can't comment on the longevity past that though. So I don't know if I get into year 5 were we going to have some issues? Will I be able to crack crack open the casing on these headphones and replace the battery? I don't know is a thing. Someone else is commenting here like Sony really needs to work with iFixit, and they're not wrong. We really should see that kind of repairability. Yep, and MPT, man. I still get regular traffic on that video. Michael Peppertech says, I had to stay away from headphones for long-term use because I wear glasses most of the time and the pressure hurts. I could wear contacts, but I can't wear contacts all the time. And heat is a real issue with headphones with extended use, which sucks because earbuds also make my ears itch. I tend to switch between headphones and earbuds IEMs to stay comfortable. I cannot do any physical activity in cans. I am a sweaty dude, and closed back headphone, really heavy isolation, noise canceling, all that stuff, I just have pools of sweat. It's so gross. I do not understand. I see people working out in AirPods Max all the time. That is a heavy headphone. That is a metal headphone. That is an insulating headphone. And I've seen, like, you see videos of people like taking them off and like you'll see sweat drip out of them. Like, it's so gross. I do not understand how people do that. I don't get it. I don't have the same issues as a lot of people do with in-ear monitors. Like, I want an in-ear monitor that's going to drill into my brain and go super, super deep in the ear canal. I like that. I really want that. I feel it's more secure. I get better isolation. I have large ear canals. TMI, I don't know. But it's tough. It's really tough because, again, ears are super funky. So I did a video just asking, hey, folks, what do you do about headphones if you wear glasses? And I either got people saying like, well, he's not giving us any answers. This video was a waste of time. Or people being like, this is such an obvious answer. Everybody should already know stuff like this. But then not answering the question. So a few people recently have found that video again, and I got some interesting comments and like, hey, I try and switch out pads, and I'll purposely break the pad in around my glasses. I try to do this, I try to do that. But MPT, I would also recommend either going open ear earbud, which I'm not personally a huge fan of, but you will get better sound quality, or going like bone conduction and seeing if that can help fill in some gaps. Just, again, there's no good solution. And it's a situation where I feel a lot of people just kind of suffer with a mediocre option because there literally is no option for their biology. And I wish I had a better answer than that. But there's a lot of things you can try, and I'm sure you've tried most of them. MPT, you're a pretty thorough dude. But until the market recognizes that people who wear glasses exist, we're kind of stuck with a very limited approach to other solutions that might work for people. My wife is in a is similar but not terribly dissimilar state. She can wear contacts, but if she's wearing glasses, her ear canals are way too small for most in-ear earbuds. So if she wants isolation, we had professionally molded IEM tips just so that she could have a solution. And we're talking about an investment in like $200 for earbuds so that it fits her ears the way that it's supposed to fit her ears. That's what we had to do. It is worth talking to an audiologist. Like go start with like an ENT, that ear, nose, throat. Talk to a doctor about that, and then just say, hey, I have this problem. I have to wear glasses. I can't do this. I can't do that. What other solutions might there be? And they could maybe pass you over to a proper audiologist, or even just like someone working on hearing aid technology, and then you can get something. So like if in-ear tips make your ears hurt, molded tips are so nice. They're so much better. John Gao saying, I've never noticed the creaky of my XM4s. So again, it's like putting it into perspective. I notice it, but to me, it's not overly disruptive. So I had the Bear Dynamic Lagoons I don't know if I still have the Beyerdynamic Lagoons. They were down there on the bookshelf. I might have gotten rid of them, actually. I don't know. Sorry, got distracted. The Beyerdynamic Lagoons were super creaky, but then I dropped them off of the couch one day. So they fell, I don't know, 2 feet? Less than 2? No, couch isn't even that tall. What is that? Maybe it's like 2 feet-ish. Not very high, maybe like 1.5 feet. They fell off the couch onto carpet, and then I put them back on my head, and any minor movement, it sounded like tinfoil resonating in my ears. So if I moved my jaw around, if I moved my head around, just the momentum of moving my head could rattle the headband on the Beyerdynamic Lagoons. I love professional Beyerdynamic headphones. Like DT 770s are right up in that corner right there. You can see the ear cup on my 770s right there. I have those at arm's reach all the time. I've mixed so much audio in 770s. I know what they sound like. The 770s are brilliant, bulletproof, professional grade, 20-year headphones. You invest in a professional monitor headphone, and it should last you a decade or 3. Could not praise Beyerdynamic audio gear enough. Their consumer Bluetooth options are not as good. Actually, their earbuds are pretty good too. Actually, if you can still get like their Bluetooth neckband, their Bluetooth ANC neckband was really good. It was the Bluebird or something like that, BYRD, I think. Those were great. I still have those too. Those are awesome. But their cans, the Lagoons, were just noisy, and that took me completely out of anything that I was listening to after they took that drop. I just immediately retired them. So I pick up the XM4s, and I'm seeing people leave comments like, "Oh, who even can stand the XM4? Oh, they're just so noisy. The headband is so creaky." And you're like, man, you really haven't heard creaky if you think the XM4s are creaky. You must be so privileged and so pampered, so princess in the pea when it comes to a creaky headband, which is a hinged travel headband. This is impossible to make this 100% silent. We can do really, really well, but there are moving parts. Something will eventually resonate into your ear cup. To me, it's just so funny, like how precious. Now, I will say, if you ever get yourself like a Meze 99 Classic or a Meze 105, and that spring steel headband is so light, it's so airy, and there are no parts that move. The head strap has these elastic points. So the head strap takes the vertical height and weight of the headphone, and then it's this light but firm spring steel that expands or contracts to fit your head. I've never experienced a headphone headband that I immediately ignore like the Meze. It is the most speaker-like experience. They look incredible. They're so lightweight. And then you put them on, and about 10 seconds into whatever you're listening to, you've completely forgotten that this thing is clamped to your head and covering your ears. They are the most organic headphone I've ever used in my entire life. I adore that feeling. That might ruin you for your XM4s, though. So, John, be careful. And Brian Glaze right after is like, "Thanks, Juan. I never noticed my creakiness until now." I don't mean to point it out. I just mean it's a spectrum. It's a spectrum of experiences. You can't expect, like, here's my edifier. Edifier, closed back, planar magnetic headphones, collapsible headband. You're gonna hear some movement. You're gonna hear some creak and flex. It's impossible to make a truly 100% rigid, silent travel headphone. So I want to put those complaints when people complain about Sony's into perspective, because it's like the only way to eliminate that is to eliminate the thing that makes it a practical travel companion, as the folding setup on that. Michael C, if I really wanted Sony headphones, I would just wait for the resale market. You always see the Sony's price drop in price by 50% within 12 months. XM5, XM4 are like 100 to 170 bucks right now. Even if you bought them full retail, I think Sony still sells the XM4s. And I want to say, like, the last time I pulled them up, they were on sale for like 250, like brand new from Sony. And even 250 is like, that's a pretty good buy. But yeah, it's not hard to shop this stuff out. It really isn't. But I am trying to say, like, if I hold up a pair of One Mores, or like I have my Sono Flow Pro. Sounds like I'm a part of the Shadow Proclamation there. I want to say these MSRP are $90. On sale, they're less. But one more, MSRP $90. Sony MSRP $450. So I always start at MSRP. And then we can talk about sales. Because I think a lot of us appreciate the fact that we should not be spending MSRP on a lot of our gadgets. That's just not how this stuff works. Michael C, if history is any guide, the XM6s will be sub $200 probably by next summer. Maybe I'm just broke though. I don't know. Like I said, again, the XM4s direct from Sony are still going to be more than that, but you're not wrong. I mean, this stuff kind of devalues pretty quick. It's I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, because I also feel like the construction on this stuff is getting more expensive. So price hikes haven't been extreme, but they have gotten a little bit incrementally more expensive over time. And then we could still be in for another just weird tariff situation. So like the price on the XM6s might jump, and it might have nothing to do with Sony. Like, it's just so frustrating being in this place where we just don't know. Oh, hey, a new comment from Information Man Show. Good day, new to the channel. Oh, I hope you've been enjoying the conversation, Information Man Show. I want to wrap us up because... Oh, whoops. Let me get that out of the way there. Oh, sorry. I'm just seeing like back and forth in conversation and people chatting about stuff. Darcy, nice Jadoon reference. So no, Flow Pro. It's so corny. I love it. I love it so much. Oh, wow. Umar Aslan, the XM6, there are already refurbs of the XM6 available at, I don't know, Second City? I don't know. For $300. So yeah, not yet 2 months old, and we can already find refurbs on the XM6. Oh, John Gao, I don't know what you're talking about. There's nothing to remember. You're saying I'm going to try to forget about the creaky situation before I go to the office tomorrow with my XM4s. I don't know what you're talking about. There's nothing there that exists. You don't even need to forget about it. I want to bring these up because we're going to wrap up the show. We always end up going like 2.5 hours, and I've loved this conversation. Thank you, everybody, for jumping in on this. Michael Peppertech was talking about having issues putting on headphones wearing glasses. I mentioned one solution is open ear. I am not a big fan of this new style of open earbuds. Sony has like those little ring loop earbuds. The newer AirPods have some kind of noise reduction tech, noise canceling pass through, but they're still open AirPod earbuds. The ones that I've spent the most time with are the One Mores, which had the loop behind the ear, and then they would curve, and a little speaker element would sit in front of the ear canal, and Soundcore.
Soundcore, I think they're Aerofits. Also, same idea. A battery loops behind the ear, and then in front, you get this thing. One of the earbud designs I've not yet tried ever is a clip. And so One More, like again, I really like One More products. I really like One More tuning. Of all the sort of mid-range or sort of less expensive, like you want good, inexpensive gear that's not cheap, I think One More and Soundcore lead those markets. Two of my all-time favorite audio manufacturers, and I think you get a really great bang for buck. I'm never going to hold them up as being the audiophile solutions, but I think in a practical daily driver noise canceling kind of setup, those two companies put out phenomenal hardware. They sent over, One More is now selling a new ear clip. So they sent these over, and they look like kind of interesting jewelry, but it's a little loop clip. It's like, depending on how I hold it, it kind of looks like a ridiculous nose ring. But there's a little speaker unit in here and a little battery in there, and it just clips to the outer edge of my ear. And then when I turn my head sideways, you can see this kind of little loop, and the speaker element is right in front of my ear, and I can still hear everything that's going on around me. There's no isolation, there's no passive noise reduction, but it's a good little speaker unit. So sound quality is gonna be better than a solution like bone conduction. So if you've seen Aftershocks or H2O Audio, I know Aftershocks takes the lion's share of that market. Like you'll see Aftershocks all over the place. Those Shocks headphones are great. But if you drive like the sports side of your audio a little bit harder, H2O Audio I think actually has a better solution for athletes than Shocks does at the moment. This is going to sound better. This is noticeably higher sound quality than what I can get with bone conduction. But I still worry that when I clip this, and there's no pressure on the top of my ear, so it doesn't compete with glasses. So you see, like Michael Peppertech, it's going to clear your glasses. You don't have to worry about that loop. You don't have to worry about bone conduction drivers getting in the path of your glasses frames. So ear clip might be a solution to try. But you have to go into it knowing that your only option, if stuff is loud around you, is to turn up the volume. And that can contribute to hearing loss, tinnitus, other situations that might not always be good long-term situations to deal with. And we're still seeing, like, I caught another study just came out recently, like even more correlating data between hearing loss and dementia and brain degradation later in life. And that's some scary stuff. That's some really scary stuff to be like in your 40s or in your 30s or even in your 20s and realizing like I'm already suffering some hearing loss and I hope to still be on this planet for a couple of more decades. So what's gonna happen to my brain if I keep killing my ears? But there are some solutions to try. And again, we need to put those limits. You need to look at what your tolerances are. You need to be able to say like, hey, I've got this audio solution, but if I turn it up too loud, it's bad for my hearing. So it's just on me that I don't. I need to have the discipline to use this properly. And if I don't have the discipline to use it properly, then maybe I should get rid of it. Maybe I should let it go. So it's maybe something to try. A little One More ear clip. They're cute. They definitely stand out. Like people notice them. I was wearing them and Marie immediately like, did you get another earring? She didn't know what she was seeing in my ear. But it could be a potential solution for something like that. And MPT, you know what, man? That's another thing too. Is like we can't go light on this stuff anymore. Michael Peppertech says, "I wish that wireless headphones would consider making the battery swappable easily and just create less e-waste." If you're gonna give me, not only is that hilarious, like on a full size headphone, I should be able to pop this case and get to the battery. It should not be difficult to do that kind of repair. But if I have an open ear earbud and there is a battery that runs behind my ear, why can't I get some kind of connection that I could pop the battery out of this assembly? That could be a part of the design consideration here. No company has really approached that. The company who came closest was Creative. Creative had some true wireless earbuds that, for their time, were like the longest lasting battery life per charge. I want to say it was something crazy. Like, they didn't have noise canceling, but you could charge them once and then play audio for like 8 hours, back when AirPods lasted for like 2 hours on a single charge. But that Creative case, you could pull up a white paper from Creative that showed you how to disassemble the earbud casing so you could replace the battery. That's not something companies talk about. But like, say Sony did, like, you know, like their new Link Buds or new XMs, you know, like a what is it, WF-1000XM6, and they made that a part of their marketing. Like, hey, we make an incredibly high quality audio solution that's great for travel. And after a couple of years, you take this clip off, you take off this casing, you pull out the battery, you put in a new one, and your $300 earbuds will last you another 3 or 4 years. Make that a marketing campaign. Make that a selling point. Because, you know, audio doesn't scale so dramatically year over year over year. Like, a good sounding earbud from 15 years ago is still probably a good sounding earbud today. I've got my, where is it? It's kind of up in that corner right there. I've got headphones in there that are older than my daughter. I've got mixing headphones that are old enough to buy liquor. They're still good mixing headphones. They're still good music listening headphones. Like, 10 years, good audio is still good audio. And I don't know. I feel like it's such a missed opportunity. Because also, let's be frank. Sony comes out with an advertising campaign saying, hey, on your next generation of earbuds, we're going to make sure you can pop a new battery in there. They're going to sell a bunch more earbuds. And people are still going to lose them. People are going to get to 2 or 3 years. The battery's going to start to fail. Do I really want to stick with these earbuds? Do I want to get new ones? I don't know. They're not going to lose many sales of new earbuds, but they'll get a bunch of new sales from people who think they might actually care about repairing them or getting new batteries for them. It's a win-win. I can't believe for a second that 3 years from now, people will be like, oh, better not buy new earbuds because I can just replace the batteries. It's just not how consumers respect this stuff. But they could get so much goodwill by making that a part of an advertising campaign, by making that a part of a marketing campaign. It's just such a bummer. Like, you know, you're only going to get about a year or two of the fully functional product. Now, if they last longer than that, great, that's gravy. But you know you can only count on about 2 years. And then the capabilities of that earbud start diminishing. Because the batteries are just so tiny. You know you're not going to get more than that. I don't know. I know companies worry like, oh, well, maybe this will make them think like they don't need to buy stuff we want people to buy more. You could sell them that and they would buy more, and you probably wouldn't sacrifice many sales because consumers are lazy. Vasicos, I love it. I haven't vacuumed in years without ANC. You guys want to know how silly I am about hearing health? We have a KitchenAid industrial grade coffee grinder. Big, super grinder, just like it's an appliance to grind coffee. Because we really like our coffee. I will not turn on the coffee grinder without ANC headphones on. Vacuuming. We had a problem with our little cheap Nissan sedan for a while. Like, just one of the tires was always like low pressure. We couldn't find a leak, but I'd have to fill it up. So we got one of those just cheap, like AutoZone air compressors. I won't turn that on if I don't have headphones on. Like, if something's gonna be kind of loud, hold on, let me go get some noise canceling headphones. So the one more that I hold up here, these usually live by the kitchen, just so that at any time I can put on noise canceling headphones by the coffee grinder or the blender or anything that might be kind of loud. So Vasicos, I feel you. I I am with you on that. From Jonathan Brando, I heard Moondrop Pill has some kind of noise canceling while being a clip style, but I'm not sure how good that is. We've played with this a lot. What you can do is you can sample consistent sound in your environment and create an opposite resonating frequency. And you can do this in audio editing software. You can get a sample of sound and just literally reverse the polarity of the tractor beam, and reverse it, flip it, in modulation, and it'll cancel out the sound. So what we do is we've got noise in your environment, a microphone listens to that noise and then creates more sound that is at the opposite peak modulation of the noise, and it can kind of cancel it out as it's getting to your ear. I don't find it's as effective as a good closed back sealed headphone, and I don't think it's as good as a closed back sealed headphone with active noise canceling doing kind of the same thing. I think that's the winning combination, is passive and active noise cancellation together. But it can be surprisingly effective. If what we're trying to do is just minimize the noise, we know we're not going to completely obliterate it. If we just minimize it, that means you can still listen to your music at a lower level. I'm happy that even on AirPods, like, that's a thing that helps. It's not perfect, it's not as effective as an in-ear earbud, but it helps. Every little bit helps. Like, use any little thing you can just so you can listen at a lower volume. Start training your ears, retraining your ears. Listen lower, listen lower, listen lower, and you can get back some of this platform shift. Your ears go numb, you turn up the volume. Your ears go numb, you turn up the volume. We can bring that back down, and we have some tools that can do some cool stuff to kind of help us out there. From Ali, on the issue of batteries, you still have an explosive in your ear. I know, you're not wrong. And also, it's just heavier. So, just get a good in-ear monitor, put that on like a Bluetooth DAC, and put that in your pocket. And hopefully, I'm thankful though. I've had lots of in-ear earbuds and Bluetooth earbuds. I don't think I've had a single friend say they've had a battery go up in their ear. So I'm gonna knock on wood there. I definitely don't want that to be an issue. Oh, that's good to know, Murder. I had no idea. The WH-1000XM6 had a replaceable battery, and it was a regular hearing aid battery. That's really cool. I didn't know that. I might have to look up like some old XM3s just to see like what that design was like, because it is one of the concerning things about the XM6. Like, they do seem a little less user enterable, and that's not great. Oh no, Go V8, they totally do. Go V8 says, I think they like the buy the new shiny ones when your old ones die strategy. What I'm saying is most consumers will still fall for that. But you could sell consumers up front on the repairability, knowing that most of them won't do it. But people like us absolutely would. We would take advantage of that 2-year battery, pop out, put in a new battery, still be rocking it just fine. But we are a small slice, a tiny slice, a rounding error in the number of gadgets that people buy on the daily. So Sony could sell more with that marketing, knowing very, very few people will actually take advantage of that capability. But that to me is the win-win. The people who would can still get the audio products they love, contribute less to e-waste. Maybe that would grow over time and Sony would have to figure out what their business strategy would look like or start charging more for these products up front. But in the next 2 or 3 generations of headphones and earbuds, they would sell more and I think their losses would be negligible. That's all I'm saying is just the component of marketing it. Just the advertising of it, the talking about it. Think about how many consumers they pull away from AirPods. Would those consumers all switch the batteries? No. Almost none of them would. But they know they could. It's a huge complaint with my AirPods. I hate when the battery starts to die. I have to buy new AirPods. But not with these Sonys. But no one's really making that big marketing push for the idea of repairability and longevity. I just think it's a huge missed opportunity. Tangential Tesseract. Heck, I like using ANC when I have fans turned on for the heat. I'll just be bumping my lo-fi mix on Qobuz just when the fans on my workstation get too loud. I'll put on my noise canceling headphones. It's great. Or I'll go in-ear monitors and just passively block it all out, because that's usually enough. But I have something happening with my ear that is blocking noise around me, and I love it. I love it. Oh, a clarification from Murder. I don't think they meant to make the XM3 earbuds battery replaceable. It just ended up that way. See, again, accidentally getting to the right conclusion, that would have been huge. Just, hey, did you know that on our XM3, you don't have to buy new earbuds? You could just replace the battery. And AirPods owners would have went, hey, that's cool. Do it. I love it. I love it. From Enrico Vids, wouldn't replaceable battery access make IP ratings difficult? I don't think so. I'm not saying it's easy just to make it a one-to-one change. But for example, I mean, like, I don't believe Sony rates the XM6 with a proper IP rating. I bet you they're minimally sweat resistant. I wouldn't be surprised if this is like IPX3, maybe something like that. But I don't think they're properly rated. Someone please correct me right now in the comments if I have that wrong. But I don't think Sony does have an Ingress rating on the XM6. So for a lot of these things, and especially like for phones, but I think this would be true for earbuds too, if your casing could open, then what you would probably need to sell is not just a battery, but a replacement gasket. And as long as you have a little gasket on where the two pieces fit, you can make that surprisingly effective. Again, would you submerge your earbuds in water at more than 3 meters depth for 40 minutes at a time? No. Obviously, that would fail. But should you be submerging your head underwater at that depth for that length of time with earbuds in your ears? Because you could build up pressure and then the water would just rupture your tympanic membranes if any water got in there in the ear canal while you had your earbuds underwater. Waterproof earbuds are actually kind of a terrible idea, because if you futz with them while you're in water, you can get water pressurized and then just pop your eardrums. So if we're looking at sweat resistance, as you take the case apart, you'll probably sacrifice a gasket. But if we replace a tiny little gasket and a tiny little battery, that is functionally better than replacing the entire earbud with the circuit board and the nozzles and the drivers and the electronics and the radios and the antennas. Let's try. Let's try to cut back on that. Maybe if it's a clip or a clamp, or maybe you even might need to use an adhesive. There is definitely something we could try that could still get us to like IPX4, which would be perfectly adequate for a lot of mid sports, higher level activity. Probably not for triathletes and marathon runners, but I'm not running marathons and I'm not a triathlete. My needs for a sweat resistant earbud are like IPX3, IPX4. I'd be good. So I think it's possible. I think we could try it, and I think it would work better than most people would expect. Oh yeah, an MPT. I could see a company doing a user replaceable battery, but not with a standard battery. So they'd still get money for replacing the batteries, proprietary solutions to keep the money in their pockets. Or you could even mandate, like my daughter's watch has a new wrist strap where the antenna for the watch goes into the wrist strap. On the older version of the watch, if the watch band failed, then the watch died. The new version, if the watch band fails, you can't replace it, but they have this whole new program where you send the watch back to them, and I think it's like $15. They replace the strap and they send the watch back to you and everything's fixed up. They still got money, they got the repair, you're still a customer of theirs, you're still using their watch. I think you could absolutely do. Sony has the infrastructure to do something where, hey, the battery life on your XM5s is starting to go. Well, send them back to us. And it's $50. And we'll put in new batteries and make sure they're water resistant still, and we'll send them right back to you. Win-win. I'm not against these companies making money on these services, but like, make the service. Give us the service. Give us an opportunity to do business with you long term. And I think they would have so many more customers for new products than they would lose sales on repaired products. I think it would be an order of magnitude more people shopping the new stuff than it would be people repairing the old stuff. But it would be because they knew they could repair the old stuff if they needed to. Oh yeah, Enrico Vids, true. If I can pull out an SD card tray, I should be able to pull out a battery tray, but those earbuds are pretty tiny, so I suppose there isn't a lot of extra space. But your tray is the perfect example. Look at how minimal the gasket is on a SIM card tray, right? Your SIM card tray should be smaller than your earbuds. And I'm not even talking about making that immediately accessible user replaceable. I'm just saying you should be able to open the earbud in some way that does not destroy the earbud, but it might not be something you could just do like with like a pin tool. Maybe it requires some kind of like hex nut, or maybe it's an adhesive and you do need to get a heat gun on it to separate the two pieces, but that's totally doable. If we can make a phone IP68 and it has a SIM card tray, we should be able to make an earbud IPX4 and give it a replaceable battery. That is not an expensive or exotic manufacturing concern. Oh, Vazikos, thanks for the ear nightmares, Juan. Don't use earbuds in water. Use bone conduction in water. Bone conduction in water is amazing. It sounds so cool when you're underwater and your ears are still exposed, but you're hearing music. It is wild. H2O Audio, I think they actually make some of the absolute best underwater bone conduction solutions that you can play with. You should absolutely give those a shot. If you're talking athlete, again, if you're talking triathlete, I don't think it's shocks anymore. I think it's H2O Audio. Oh yeah, and Lunk. What if the new battery tech, higher energy density of Chinese smartphone manufacturers comes to other forms like smartwatches and earbuds? I think that's definitely on the horizon. That is definitely something we're going to start seeing very, very soon. And Enrico Vids, one more, and we got to start wrapping this up. Enrico Vids, come on, click on the thing. Oh, I also have to ban this real quick. Hold on. Ban and add to block list. There we go. Okay. Enrico Vid saying repair shops don't change earbud batteries. I remember reading some Reddit thread on how to change the battery in the in the XM4 because of some battery flaw. So it depends on the earbud, and there is no universal standard. The only company I know of that put out their own repair white paper was Creative. That's not to say a company like iFixit couldn't figure out a way to disassemble Sony earbuds, but that is a sensitive repair. That is a very, you've got to be very careful disassembling earbuds. And I don't know that a lot of repair shops, it would be worth their time, because think about how much the labor would cost to properly disassemble, reassemble, and not have the customer come back in a week saying, oh, no, they won't charge. Whatever you did broke my earbuds, and then have to do that whole dance, right? But if you made it known and you had repair literature and guides and people could see what that process was, I think that would make it more effective, more accessible. But something like AirPods are not designed to be opened in any way that doesn't completely destroy the earbud. There is no way to reassemble them. So the most popular examples of consumer audio right now are designed to be completely inaccessible and designed to be designed to fail the second you try to crack open that casing and get to the internal parts. So all right, let me take a drink of water, and then I have to stop talking. Okay, so this was so much fun, y'all. We had a really busy and emotional week and weekend, and it was all good stuff. But you still like the emotions are high. It's heavy stuff. Like it's pretty crazy. And I knew coming back this Monday, I was not going to be able to handle the mental health hit of doing the full tech politics. Here's what's going on with the FCC and the FTC and companies under investigation. And we're going to have to cover some of that news next week. I got to get back on track next week. It's stuff that we need to be aware of and we need to pay attention to. But man, I needed this. I needed this so much. Just, kind of riffing on random, wacky, gadgety stuff. And y'all were so much fun. Seriously, these comments were so much fun, and it's the fun that I've really needed for a while. So more fun to come. Crazy camera lenses, a new Vivo X200. I might have something soon from a company. This one I know I can't show on camera yet, but it's related to some of this audio conversation we've been talking about and some of the wearable tech. Really cool stuff. I'm going to be talking up more. I've got a video that I'm halfway through shooting, comparing the best portable Bluetooth audio headphones to some really inexpensive Bluetooth audio headphones, and then comparing the best ANC travel can to an audiophile grade, an even more expensive headphone than what Sony sells. I'm holding up the edifier for those of you listening to the audio replay. So maybe you want the best-in-class ANC, or maybe you want a ridiculous planar magnetic driver instead. Because this is a completely different kind of showdown, a completely different kind of conversation. So there's some real cool stuff. I don't have any more softball tournaments to go to, so I might be able to finish some of these videos soon. So, folks, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. All of the folks here on the Twitch, and you showing up on the YouTube, and everybody who catches the replay. The replay on this is always huge, knowing that we can kind of chat this stuff out. So thank you very much. I appreciate it, and there will be more to come soon. So everybody out there, have an amazing week. Have an amazing week. Tell yourself now on Monday, I'm gonna do amazing with my tech. I'm gonna be amazing with my tech, and I'm gonna take care of my brain so I can keep being an amazing tech neighbor for all of my family and friends out there who need the help. There's a lot going on. Your friends, your family, they might not know it, they might not even appreciate it, but they need your help. And I know you're there to help them out. So I'll catch you back here next week for another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast stream. Be safe, take care. I'll catch you back. I love you all.